Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, live at the crib with my guy Chuck, and we're here sitting and waiting for Pete Carroll to talk to the press about the Raiders' 23-21 loss up against the Houston Texans. Now, I will apologize. I'm not at the studio. I'm still not 100%. I don't want to get anybody sick at Chat Sports before the holidays. So the way that these shows typically go is we're going to be answering questions. I want to see what you guys have to say. And if anybody wants to do anything crazy today, I'm going to give Chuck a treat every time somebody does it. I've also been working a lot on what the capabilities are that I have at the house. So I do want to try to do a duck race today. So if anybody wants to try to get in, $20 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365. But once Pete Carroll talks to the media, talks to the press, what I'm going to end up doing is you're not going to have to leave. You're going to be able to watch the Pete Carroll presser literally right here. So you're going to be able to watch it right here with me. Don't give the Raiders YouTube channel your views. Don't give the Raiders YouTube channel your comments. I hope that you guys stick here and watch the Pete Carroll presser live with me here on today's show. And I'll be here probably for a good, 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours today. I want to be able to chop it up. I want to be able to answer y'all's questions in the way that you're going to be able to get on today's program. Hashtag Raiders, or you can super chat to skip the line. And I know I don't typically do these types of shows when I'm at the house, but this is always something that I like to be able to try. It's always something that, we want to be able to mix up and have a little bit more fun here on the program, because at the end of the day, the number one objective for me is to get you guys more Raiders content. And I apologize that I'm not 100%, though. I do feel a lot better today compared to the way that I felt yesterday. Let's get into the very first super chat here on today's program, and it's from Joshua Hughes. What's up, man? Mitch, if you were coaching the Raiders, would you sit your starters out for the last two games? I'll tell you what, Josh, this is a hell of a question. If anybody wants to go down below and please interact with me live on YouTube, give me a yes, give me a no. What would you do? What would you do? Somebody just said, nice hat, Mitch. I got the nice hat on because I've been rocking my GLD chain, and man, they're changing the game. I'm trying to up my Raiders swag a little bit. I need to up it up a little bit. Would I sit my starters out the last two games? Here's the hard part about it, right? You're getting paid millions upon millions of dollars to go out there and do your job. And I can understand like a coaching staff or front office telling certain players like, hey, I'd really like if you ended up sitting out. Also, Josh, the $10 super chat, Chuck gets a treat, so he's going to be hanging out with us today. He's been in my hip pocket. We were gone for the holidays for 3 days, so he literally won't leave me alone, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So it's like this. My mind is telling me, yes, you should sit your starters. I don't want Colt Miller to get injured. I don't want something bad to happen to Max Crosby, and I do think you got to look at the grand scheme of things. The grand scheme of things is you want to go into 2026 with your best foot forward. God forbid if something were to happen to Max Crosby, that makes this offseason a lot more interesting, not in a good way. In terms, though, of when I sit my starters, I'll probably say no. And I only say that because, again, you got a job to do. And I'm not going to get mad at guys for wanting to go out there and do their job. Like, I can't even imagine if I were to look at Max Crosby and tell him, hey, man, you're not going to play this week because we want a better chance of the number one overall pick. I actually think that would piss off Max more than him being like, oh, all right, yeah, I wrap my mind around that. And you're just going to anger certain guys. The way that you can bench your starters is just start playing a lot more of your younger guys. And there's certain players that I thought played well yesterday. I mean, I've been trying to watch a little bit of the tape today. Very impressed by how Malcolm Kuntz played. Was very impressed. Honestly, Dylan Parham, you may argue he had the best game of his best game of the season for Dylan Parham yesterday. It's probably one of the biggest reasons why Ashton Jeanty also got it going a little bit. But like the way that I would bench my starters, you're not going to bench Max. You're not going to bench certain players. But there are other opportunities like Devin White. I actually think if you bench Devin White and play Tommy Eichenberg, because, I watched a little bit of Tommy Eichenberg this morning, and I liked what I saw from Eichenberg. He's been flying around the football field. So, can you bench all of your starters? Probably not, because I do think it's really going to piss off certain guys on that team that, are also fighting for incentives. They're also fighting for brand new contracts. They're fighting for their ability to be able to provide for their families. So And with the amount of free agents that we have, like, you're not going to bench Eric Stokes, because if you try to bench Eric Stokes, he's going to look at you and he's going to tell you go F yourself, because he's having a good season, but he's on that one-year deal. So I like this question. I appreciate this question. Before I get in to the next super chat here on today's program, I do want to say I got to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. I'm going to show you my Prize Picks lineup, but also this is like the best time of the year for Prize Picks. Today, I took advantage of what they do during the holiday season. It's called Pixmas. So it's 7 days of Pixmas, and Prize Picks is giving out 7 days of deals all the way through Christmas Day, including a Christmas Day max discount. Pixmas starts December 20th, so it's already started. So download the app today and unwrap those deals. So the deal that I did today on Prize Picks was it's a $10 lineup, and essentially what that means is they're literally giving you $10. So if your lineup doesn't win today, they'll repay you that $10 in bonus lineup. So essentially, when you look at how much money you have in your Prize Picks lineup or in your account, you're going to see bonuses, and then you're going to see like what you have in your account. You can do $10, and if you don't win, they refund you that $10 as a bonus. So literally, I feel like I got nothing to lose today. My Prize Picks lineup, I think it's a pretty interesting one. For the 49ers and Colts game, I got $10 to pay $120. And again, because it's Pixmas, if this lineup doesn't win, they're going to give me my $10 back. So essentially, I got $10 to win, $120 tonight for the 49ers and Colts. And I kind of want the Colts to win because I want to put the pressure on Chuggs a little bit. He was talking hella shit yesterday, which not yesterday, the day before that, because again, like he's all on the Texans high, but they did not look good yesterday. I did Christian McCaffrey more than 39.5 receiving yards. Also more for McCaffrey tonight, 5 receptions. Jonathan Taylor, I took the less on 98.5. Christian McCaffrey, more than 1 touchdown, so he just got a score tonight. Phillip Rivers, I took more on the interception, needs to throw 1. And then Phillip Rivers, I took the less on the passing yards, 160.5. But I always say it, like, this is truly the best time of the year to get started with Prize Picks. So download the Prize Picks app today. Make sure that you use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Let's go to the next super chat. This one's rolling in here from Ryan Campbell. Ryan Campbell, to my guy Chuck. He's a happy camper right now, I'll tell you that. I'm in the same boat as you. I feel like crap. Say hypothetically the Raiders don't draft Mendoza or more. Would you take a consideration of Mabia from USC? Here's the thing, like, what's really going to be hard for me is if the Raiders don't have the number 1 overall pick, what exactly are we going to do? And it's hard because I'm just at the point where I just really, really, really want the Raiders to be able to go get the quarterback that they want in Mendoza, or really do the path that I think Chicago did over 2024 and in the year 2023, but also, or no. It was, they took their quarterback, but in 2025, they still had that number 1 pick, but they ended up, like trading back. They got all those picks from Carolina. Carolina obviously went out, and they ended up getting Bryce Young. Like, I just want this team to have a good plan in place. I don't think Mabia from USC really fits the bill for what I'm looking for right now. Like, if you can't go out and draft a Mendoza, if you can't go out and draft a Moore, it's more where I'm kind of looking at, do you try to trade for a guy like Cam Ward? Do you try to go out and trade for a guy like a Jalen Milroe? Malik Willis is a really interesting name, and I'm not crazy about Malik Willis, but it's like, can you trade a 4th or a 5th round pick and go get a Jalen Milroe or a Malik Willis? Is that a better option than trying to use one of your draft picks on a quarterback? And there's a lot of holes on this team. I'm sorry that you feel like crap. I know I don't feel very good either. I think I threw up. I'm not kidding. I was telling my dad, I think I threw up like 6 times on my flight yesterday, which has literally never, ever happened to me. But at this point, I am all in on Mendoza. There's not really any other quarterbacks that I like in this year's draft. Him and Dante Moore. Sellers could be interesting to me, but that's more just based on the offense that we have around us. Again, like I'm just so set on Mendoza, and until I have to reconsider something else, I don't really want to reconsider something else, right? Like, I feel like what you're asking me is, so Mitch, if we can't get Clint Kubiak if we can't get Minter, we can't get Shula, do you want to try to go out and get Pete Carroll again? Like, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to deal with it. Let's go to what's this? Bomb Fava. Hey, Mitch, I know we really want a new quarterback and O-line, but I think we also need a wide receiver and maybe some defensive secondary help. Anyone we should keep an eye on? We need everything. You know what I mean? Like, I would say outside of a running back, outside of a tight end, we need just about everything. We need help on all aspects of the game, and we do need a wide receiver. But the Raiders, though, they got to set priorities. And if you're going to set priorities, it's in the trenches first this offseason. So I don't disagree with you that we need a wide receiver. But the way that I personally would look at the offseason for the Raiders is, if you want to go out and get, let's say, an Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is a good wide receiver that's not going to break the bank. Alec Pierce, though, is going to be probably $15, $16 million. If I'm going to spend $15 to $16 million, I'd rather you invest that money in the offensive line, on the defensive line. So to me, I'm looking at a lot of these players in free agency of, I'm going to spend in the trenches, and that's just how I'm going to look at it. But you can also, though, take a good wide receiver in the fourth round. Maybe you can get another receiver if you really want to ante up a little bit more. Maybe you can trade back up because, again, you got 10 picks. You want to trade up into that third, fourth round idea because from a offensive standpoint, right, who's our top target getters? And when I say target getters, maybe guys that are going to get the most opportunities. Ashton Jeanty, Brock Bowers, they better be our top two offensive weapons next season, right? Yeah, no doubt. But then also Jack Bech, Tre Tucker, I don't think should be slept on. And then you got Michael Mayer. So I'm not saying that if we were to add a wide receiver, they can't, be a bigger target getter than those guys. But I also will say Tre Tucker and Jack Bech are two okay wide receivers. Brock Bowers, Ashton Jeanty, Michael Mayer, I want to build our offense a little bit more around 12 personnel. And I want to be a little bit more of a physical team. But I think that it allows you to do that if you put the right plan in place. So if you build that offensive line, you get more 12 personnel out there. You're not going to need that other wide receiver as much as you would if you went 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end. But because we can build our offensive line, because we have a good running game in Jeanty, and you saw it yesterday, if you just give him a halfway decent offensive line, he's going to be able to create some stuff. So, spend all your money on the trenches. And do we need some defensive secondary help? Without a doubt. I know Darian Porter got picked on yesterday, but I still think you can see some of the good traits that he has. We just don't have a legit a free safety. The Raiders, they re-signed Isaiah Paul-Mal last offseason. I'm crossing my fingers that they allow Isaiah to just be a strong safety. So go out, maybe sign a free safety. Maybe you go out and you draft a really good free safety. From a cornerback perspective, I would entertain the idea of bringing back Eric Stokes. I don't want to pay him more than $10 million, but if you can get him at $7 to $8 million, I think that's a really good contract to have. But the other part that I would really do, and I would try to draft a lot of my players in defense this year. I like what I see early on from the defensive side of the football. And I think the other big problem that we've had with these Raiders teams, especially on defense, is you got all these different regimes, different players from the McDaniels regime, the AP regime, now the Pete Carroll regime. And you could just tell there's a lot of mix and matching going on. I do think if you were to take a page out of Pete's book where you draft a lot of players in the same defense, and the moment you bring them in, you kind of just get them going with the defense that you got. Now, I don't know who our defensive coordinator is going to be next season, but I just think if I'm the Raiders, I'm going to draft a lot of my defensive talent. I'm going to spend in the trenches. And if you want to add a wide receiver, I'm not saying that we don't need one. I just would rather allocate the money for good players in the trenches instead of spending, 15, 16 million on Alec Pierce. The big guy is going to be George Pickens, but I literally think the worst move possible that the Raiders could do would be spending money on George Pickens. Let's go to the next one. Coming in here, and again, I'm live waiting for Pete Carroll presser. You don't have to leave. You're going to be able to watch the stream with me here in the studio. I am anxiously waiting for them to schedule the live. They typically go live right around 1 o'clock, and you're not going to have to leave. I'm going to try something totally new today. We'll see how it works out. Roll with the punches with me a little bit, but hopefully you guys appreciate all the content that we provide here today. Let's go to Arctic Cruelty. What's up, Mitch? I'm glad we actually had a watchable game. Now I really like your takes. I still want to lose out, obviously, but there are some guys you keep that are about to hit free agency. Love you, boys. Arctic Cruelty. One to my guy, Chuck. I did say also, if anybody wants to get in for our duck race, I'm going to try to do one here. Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365, $20 Venmo for a duck race. Again, well, let's just try some shit out today. Why not, right? I'm at home. I do feel better. It's really just my stomach at this point. So if I got to step out quick, Chuck just might have to host. I liked the game yesterday. Yesterday's game was, I'm going to ask y'all right now, how nervous were you going into the fourth quarter on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being you knew the Raiders were going to lose. You weren't nervous at all. 10, you were like, holy shit, we're going to freaking blow this thing. I was at a solid 7 or 8, and looking at the live chat yesterday, it was fun to have the Raiders be competitive. I see Eric Mitchell's typing 10. Jesse's going to go with an 8. And it was fun to see the Raiders play. And what's so difficult about that game yesterday is Brock Bowers scores that touchdown. Of course, I want to see Brock Bowers do well. You see Ashton Jeanty, that 60-yard touchdown catch, the 51-yard touchdown run. You're like, holy shit, hell yeah, baby. That's what we've been waiting for all season long. But the other really frustrating part about that game, and one of the top things that, I'm really going to be looking for today on the on when Pete talks is, what does he say about Geno Smith? Because I think we could say the number one reason, not saying he's the only reason, but the number one reason, in my opinion, why we lost that game yesterday was the Geno Smith pick 6, right? I'm seeing Blue Richard says 8. Victor Lobo's going to go with an 8. So a lot of nervous fans out there, and I agree with you. But I also don't think it's totally unfair to say that the number one reason why we lost that game yesterday was that Geno Smith pick 6, because if you don't throw that pick 6, dude, I think it's a totally different ball game, because the number one reason why I say that is the Raiders then are able to run the football more. And they showed you yesterday with Jeanty that they were able to run the football. And that scares me, because the Giants are ranked 31st in the NFL against the run. So if I'm a Raiders beat reporter today, I ask Pete Carroll, are you going to start Geno Smith? I know what he's going to say. You know what he's going to say. But if we're really trying to sit down and evaluate Pete Carroll, and it's why I did the video that I did today of don't be stupid, right? Don't let one game where the Raiders play their A game, the Houston Texans play their D game, don't let that game cloud your judgment of what Pete Carroll has been all season. And Pete Carroll all season long has been a really bad decision maker at the biggest positions, I would say. And, if I was a beat reporter, I go, is Geno Smith going to start? And if Pete rolls his eyes and he laughs about that question, I would go, well, Aiden O'Connell might win that game. Kenny Pickett might have won that game. And you don't know. Obviously, anybody can turn the football over, but we also can't sit here in week 16 and act like Geno Smith turning the football over, Geno Smith putting the ball in harm's way, Geno Smith throwing pick 6s. It's happened all year long. And that's just another reason why you just can't sit here and tell me that you want Pete Carroll back next season. So when I saw the quote, from Hondo, and if you didn't see it, go check it out in my video this morning. It's like, how can you want Pete Carroll to be back next season? You can't want Pete Carroll to be back next season. And again, it's big time decisions that we just need to start getting right. Let's go to Mando Ace. You're next up here on the show. Hey, Mitch, how would you compare Carr to Mendoza? Yikes. I think Derek Carr is actually a more talented thrower of the football than Mendoza, first coming out of Fresno State. And I know that Carr was drafted in round 2. But the one thing that DC could do, and again, Derek, when he was first coming out of Fresno and before the injury, you always got the confident Derek Carr. And that's again, we're still talking about 2016, 2015 Derek Carr. But that's because when DC was confident in himself, he looked like a totally different quarterback, right? I'll compare it to Justin Herbert. When Justin Herbert's on his A game, Trevor Lawrence, when he's on his A game, and right now he's on his A game, you're like, fuck, dude, this guy's unbelievable. But when he's really struggling, he's not playing well, then you kind of sit there and you're like, all right, well, he's not that good of a quarterback. The one area that I just think Mendoza has that Carr never had is he's just a lot more mentally tough than what Carr is. And I think it's a quality that us Raider fans have to take into account more, because you have to be extremely mentally tough to be able to deal with Raider Nation. You got to be extremely mentally tough to be able to handle the ups and downs of a Raider season. But you also got to be really extremely mentally tough to, want to be a part of this rebuild, to want to be a part of an organization that hasn't won in 23 years. And I see the way that Indiana's program has grown with Mendoza, and I see the way that Mendoza has grown. And I'll just keep saying this over and over again. I'm not saying Mendoza is Tom Brady, but what I am saying is Mendoza has kind of like that Tom Brady factor of, hey, I might not be the best player on the field, but I'm going to make the other guys around me always believe. And in the NFL, when you believe from start to finish, it's an unbelievable game. I mean, again, look at that Raiders game yesterday. They believed from start to finish that they had a chance to win that game. And when you give yourself a chance, anything can happen. And Mendoza, from a prospect standpoint, he's probably not going to be somebody that's graded all that out high as a prospect, but I do think his floor is safe. I do think that he has shown you the ability to be coachable and to get better and better and better, which is a very important quality, especially in a young quarterback. But I'm looking at, I just saw somebody say more over Mendoza from Jay. I guess, this is going to be a debate that happens all year long. Ty, I am feeling better, so I appreciate you. But I look at what the Raiders offense is, and I don't even necessarily look at it as so much Mendoza to more, because I do think Mendoza is a better NFL prospect, but I also think Mendoza fits with what we have right now. And that's the other part of the equation. Mendoza is better under center than Dante Moore. Would you agree with that statement? I think most people here would agree with that statement. I also think that when you look at the Raiders offense and how this Raiders offense is going to be built, I would like to imagine it's going to be built more under center, relying on your running back, 2 tight end sets. And that is more prototypical, I think, to what Indiana has run pro style, what Mendoza's good at, where Moore is a better shotgun passer than Mendoza. He is. And I've only watched, again, I've watched tape on both of these guys. I'd have to compare both of them. But to me, Mendoza fits what we have better. And that is the tiebreaker for me, because if you like Dante Moore, you're probably also going to like Fernando Mendoza. If you like Fernando Mendoza, you should also like Dante Moore. Their games are very similar. You can see the growth. You can see both smart, pure passers. But I think about what can that tiebreaker be. And I also think about what's my number one pet peeve that I see every single year, that when we bring in these new coaching staffs, it's they force our players into doing what they're good at. Instead of what good coaches do is they say, all right, here's the players that we have. Let me build around those guys. And that's what I'm hoping that we see. I'm hoping that we see a smart coaching staff that comes in and builds with what we have. And I know that we might not have a lot to some people, but let's look at our building block players. And our building block players, I get Colt Miller's getting up there in age, but to me, I look at JPJ at center or a guard, wherever you want to put him. If you can go get Tyler Lindenbaum, let's go get Tyler Lindenbaum. But JPJ is a physical guy, yeah? Ashton Jeanty, physical runner. Brock Bowers is a tight end, and I know that he's not a wide receiver, but he would be a number one option on a lot of teams, even if you wanted to line him up at wide receiver. So with the pieces that we have, let's use the pieces that we have a little bit better. And with that being said, I like Mendoza over Moore. But if you can give me 2016, 2015 Derek Carr, hell yeah, man. I would sign up for that in a freaking heartbeat. And I think a lot of people would. So I think a lot of people would. All right, we're going to go here again. If you want to get here on the show, it's #Raiders, or you can super chat. I am looking right now, and I just saw one from Anthony. Mitch, a big what if. What do you think would be the outcome if we see Moore versus Mendoza? Who would get the win? Well, I believe if Mendoza beats Alabama, which I will be live for that game on January 1st. So hopefully you guys pull up and you show up. And then Oregon, they play Texas Tech. They play Texas Tech. I mean, if Moore and Oregon beat Texas Tech, Mendoza, they're going to be playing each other. I would love to see that matchup. And you already know if that matchup happens, I'm going to be live on the Raiders Report. I don't want to say, if I had to pick of who I think is going to win that game, I kind of think it's hard to go against Mendoza and Indiana. They're the best team in college football. They beat Ohio State. And if it's going to come down to the biggest situation of a game, I don't know how you don't go with Mendoza. Dante Moore's done a lot of great stuff, but that's going to be one of those games that you could be splitting hairs. And, somebody asked me the other day, and I'm going to ask all y'all, let's give some shout outs here. Who do you want to win the national championship in college football? Who do you want to win it? Let me know down below. Out of all the teams that are in it, you got what? Indiana, Alabama, Ohio State, Miami, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, and Oregon. Out of those teams, who do you want to win it all? The answer that Raiders fans should honestly say here is Oregon. And the reason why I say Oregon is because if they win the national championship, and if Dante Moore beats Fernando Mendoza, or let's say Indiana loses to Alabama, which obviously can happen. If Dante Moore wins a national championship, I don't know how he goes back to Oregon. Because if he wins a natty, he's going to obviously be a big reason why Oregon wins that natty. And if Oregon wins that national championship, there's going to be people that say, hey, Dante Moore should be the number 1 overall pick. And I know that there's a lot of rumors that he might go back to college. Maybe Phil Knight throws a big old fat check at him, the owner of Nike, because he's like 82, 83 years old. But like if Oregon wins it all, I think Dante Moore declares. And for the Raiders, you want all those extra quarterback options, Mendoza and Moore. Now, if you have the number 1 overall pick, I could make an argument that if you're like, hey, I don't like Mendoza, what you would be able to get in a trade back scenario, I think it would be unbelievable. Where then, we get into another conversation of if the Raiders hire an offensive-minded head coach, go get your quarterback, go draft Mendoza. But let's say you get a guy like Shula. Let's say you get a guy like Robert Saleh. Maybe you get a dude like Brian Flores. Well, then I think it might even be an interesting option to trade back from that number 1 pick, use all that extra draft capital, let your defensive-minded head coach go get some of these other defensive pieces, and then you go trade for a Jalen Milroe. Because I'll say this, Jalen Milroe might not be the best passer of the football, but if you instill an offense with him, maybe even a guy like Malik Willis, with Ashton Jeanty, with a run-first team, Jalen Milroe running the 4-3, if he throws the ball 20, 25 times a game, that's going to be a tough team to scheme against because of the running ability of a quarterback. So, again, that's just something that I would go with. But I see Georgia from Chisholm, Chris Sun, Miggy's going to go with Indiana, Victor Lobo's going to go with Indiana. Jeff says go Ducks. Georgia from Jeff Garcia, which, Jeff, I already knew you were going to say Georgia, my guy. Jeff's always part of the Noti gang. I always see him down below. So, what's up, man? Drop Top Blazers going to go Indiana. Texas Tech is my school from Bridget Rivera. Okay. Noah Milroe, that's nuts from running with scissors. I don't know if it's nuts. I think it's a good idea. But again, to each their own. All right, let's go to another super chat. We got 400 people here in the building. I still don't see that the Raiders. Ooh. Okay. So the Raiders have officially scheduled their live. So this is what it's going to look like on y'all's end. So please bear with me here. All right, hang on. Let's see if I can do this. And then I go to this. Bingo, bango. So you guys are going to be able to see your comments on the one side. I'm going to be down here on the bottom. And then as soon as this Raiders press conference starts to play, you're going to be able to see Pete Carroll and you're going to be able to see everything that they have to say. So I'm already going to switch up some stuff here. So give me 1 second. Actually, I think I can do this later. Yeah, we can do it later. All right. So this is what it's going to look like. So hopefully you guys like it. I know it's not the same from what we typically do, but this gives you guys an option to see your comments. It also gives you a chance to see Pete Carroll, and then it also gives you a chance to see me all wrapped up in one. So as soon as Pete takes the podium, that's what you guys are going to see. So please, please, please don't go anywhere. All right, let's go to Juan Rodriguez. Off-topic question statement. I think it would be cool to get some new uniforms or more Rush uniforms like 2017. Thoughts? Dude, I'll tell you this. I would love some new Raiders uniforms. And I don't mean it from a statement of, oh, sorry, I forgot to give. Chuck's like, bro, what are you doing? I don't mean change the Raiders uniform, right? It's just like if you told me, like, look at those all reds yesterday, the battle reds for Houston. You're telling me some all black Raiders uniforms went absolutely slap. Some all like silver uniforms went absolutely slap. Some all whites went absolutely slap. Like, I just think the Raiders have the coolest colors in the entire NFL. And I'm not saying to change like but we can mix it up just a little bit. No, like just a little bit. I think it would be sick. Just once in a while. Like Raiders Thursday Night Football. Give me an all black jersey. Raiders, Giants. I don't know. Give me an all-white jersey, something. Would you guys be down for it? I personally would be down for it. I think it would be really, really freaking cool, man. Really, really freaking cool. This is an interesting layout here for this Pete Carroll presser, though. I wonder if ooh, okay, hang on. So this is, all right, I think this is actually what it's going to look like. Also, what's going to be really important is if you guys could let me know down in the comments when Pete Carroll does officially take the podium, if you can hear it, that would be really, really much appreciated. I see Chisholm says, all black helmets, yes or no? How about all black jersey? All black jersey, yes or no? What do you think? I think it'd be sick, dude. All black jersey. Again, you keep the same logo. I'm not saying you got to keep the Raider. Like, to me, I know Raider fans they're like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I'm not saying it's, not broken. It's like, again, like the Raiders did play well yesterday. Let's be very clear about that. They did. They played really, really well yesterday, but I don't know how as a beat reporter, like, I don't give a shit about USC Notre Dame. Like, how do we have the thought process of asking about USC Notre Dame, but yet you don't have the thought process to ask a question about the actual Raiders? You know what I mean? Like hey, Geno threw another pick six. We think that he was a big reason why the Raiders lost the game. And I'm not saying that he's the only reason why the Raiders lost that game. He's not. But the number one reason why the Raiders lost that game yesterday was because Geno Smith threw a pick six. You can't tell me otherwise, because if Geno don't throw that pick six, I think it changes the entire game. You're going to be able to run the ball a little bit more with Jeanty in a game that he finally got it going. And yes, I was rooting for the Raiders to lose. I want the number one overall pick. But how are our beat reporters not asking a question about, hey, is Geno Smith going to start this week against the Giants? Geno threw another interception. What about a question about Geno Smith running out of bounds to lose 9 yards instead of just throwing it out of bounds? Like, there's just big time plays that did happen in that game, but I don't know why. I don't know how. I don't know what's going on, but I don't think that press conference honestly was all that bad. And I don't think that the press conference, it's just, how can you not ask a single Geno Smith question? Because me as a Raiders fan, if we're trying to evaluate what Pete Carroll is, and if there's going to be people out there that still want to sell me on Pete Carroll, Pete's got to answer the big questions. And I just feel like it's always just, we're beating around the bush. We're dodging this. We're dodging that. It's just way too often that it's just, they're dodging questions. And I don't know, man. I'm a little bit frustrated by that press conference. Pete does look tired. I feel bad for yelling at him because he just looks like a 74-year-old man who just can't get enough sleep. And he's dealing with a bad football team that he really constructed and made a lot worse out there. But I hate to say it. I mean, I agree with you, Blue. Every Pete Carroll presser is a waste of time. It is. Every single Pete Carroll presser is a waste of time. And what's sad is the beat reporters agree. I mean, I've had multiple beat reporters tell me that they feel like Pete Carroll pressers are a waste of time. It's just, that was a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. I am going to stay live here. We're going to keep on answering questions in regards to the Pete Carroll presser. If there's anything that you want to chime in about, please don't be afraid to. Again, like, there was a lot of words that were said, but I to be honest, I don't even really retain anything that was said. I just feel like it's a lot of nonsense. It's a lot of stuff that we already kind of knew the answers to. Like, oh, what do you think about Ashton Jeanty, and is he a good football player? Yeah, of course he's a good football player. Of course we know that he's confident. I wish the questions were a little bit better. I'm not going to lie to you, but it is what it is, right? The Raiders beat reporters have already told you that they're not going to give a flying flip about what we have to say, and they're just going to do what they ultimately want to do. So I'll say this. If anybody wants to try to do a duck race today, this is going to be the final time. $20 Venmo to get in. If nobody gets in, believe me, it's all good. But, Jesse, I'm with you. Softball questions. I think the only time I laughed is when Taino said something about Pete. I'm not going to say it out loud, but you know exactly what I'm talking about, Taino. I think other people saw it as well. All right. I think we already answered this one from Juan. Yep, about the Color Rush jerseys. So if you want to get your questions, your comments on the show, let's use hashtag Raiders, or you can super chat to skip the line. What's up, Mike? It feels like the same 5 questions each time and actually the same reporters. I don't disagree with you, dude. You know, I think what this organization is trying to do, and I think what a lot of the beat reporters are trying to do, is they're trying to build connections. And, Kobe Carson said, I don't understand why grown men are afraid to ask a simple question. I think grown men are afraid to ask questions because of the Raiders PR, because of the Raiders media. And, they're very strict in certain areas. Now, certain people can ask questions and they know that they're not going to lose their credentials. But I promise you this, I'm going to get some opportunities coming up here soon to be able to ask some difficult questions. We're going to be at the NFL Combine. I'll be at the Combine this year. I do plan on trying to, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to the Super Bowl. We always send a team out there to cover the Super Bowl. But if I get opportunities, man, I'm going to promise you, I'm going to ask those questions. And I'm going to have, we technically already have our media credentials. The Raiders don't allow me to go to the Raiders. So because we have our NFL credentials for NFL events, I'll be able to ask questions there. And I can't wait to be able to ask some of these questions that, quite frankly, need to be asked on a weekly, daily basis. But, again, the Raiders did play well against the Houston Texans. I don't think the Texans played well, but I just don't understand how there wasn't a question around Geno Smith. That's all. I just don't understand how that happened. Because I think the number one question, in all honesty, if a Raiders beat reporter was trying to do their job to the best potential, wouldn't you ask a question about your head coach that's going to get fired at the end of the season and around a quarterback that clearly doesn't want to be a part of this organization? He threw a pick 6, which put you in a hole in that game, was clearly the biggest play in that game for why the Raiders lost. How the hell on earth is there not a question around him and whether or not he's going to be starting Week 17 against the Giants? How the hell is there not a question around him? Is he going to be the guy moving forward? Like, how does Pete answer that question? That's what I would want to know. That's what Raider Nation wants to know. And to me, the only way possible that Pete didn't get a question in regards to Geno, it's A, the beat reporters were afraid to do it, or B, they were told not to do it. Because you can't tell me anybody that watched that game yesterday, the number one question, again, and this is for a guy that wants the Raiders to lose. This is for somebody that was happy that Geno Smith threw that pick 6. The number one thing that I was wondering going into next week was, would Geno Smith be the starter because he was the number one reason why you lost the game that really you probably could have won? Oh, my God, dude. Like, I don't know why I get so fired up because I know what's going to happen. But just, we'll see. Also, Pete did say that we would love to get Colton Miller out there, so we'll see what ends up happening. But I don't have a lot of hope. Let's go to Ninja Duck. Thank you, Mitch, for showing up every day despite you being under the weather. True commitment to excellence. Respect, brother. I feel a lot better today. Like, I really, truly do. Shout out to all y'all that hit that subscribe button, that pull up here every single day with me, and watch a live show with me, even when I don't feel well. I know that I'm not as entertaining. I know the show's not as fun. Like when I watched that, game day yesterday, I know it wasn't as fun as entertaining, but yet people still, decided to show up with me. And today, really, it's my stomach, where my stomach is, again, I've been dealing with, I've been just dealing with a lot of different things with my stomach. So it is what it is. It's why I haven't been drinking, but I promise you this, when the Raiders fire Pete Carroll, make sure you're ready to go, because we're going to be going freaking crazy on this show. You already know it. Bridget, careful, Mitch. Don't get worked up now. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do, Bridget. You got to do what you got to do. Got to do what you got to do. All right. I'm looking right now. Again, if anybody wants to get these questions, these comments in, make sure you use hashtag Raiders, or you could super chat. One of the things that I wanted to go through today, and it's something that, I used to do a little bit more often on the show, which I like to call winners and losers. I don't do it as much anymore because, let's just face the facts here. The Raiders haven't won many games, and I noticed people didn't really watch my winners and losers shows the more and more we did them. But I do want to be able to give some flowers here to players on offense. Like, to me, the biggest winners on the offensive side of the football yesterday against the Texans, not in any particular order, but obviously Ashton Jeanty was unbelievable in that game. Brock Bowers continues to show why he's the best tight end in the NFL, even if he doesn't get all the opportunities. Dylan Parham played a really good game yesterday. Played a really, really solid game. I've been talking to one of my buddies who does a little bit more offensive line analysis, and I was like, who do you think's the biggest winner for the Raiders yesterday? And he goes, outside of Ashton Jeanty, it's Dylan Parham, and it's not close. So I'm going to have to watch some of the Parham tape. I've watched a little bit of it already, and I think it's one of the big reasons why Jeanty was kind of able to get it going. I want to show some love to Tre Tucker. I want to show some love to Jack Besh. I thought those two young guys showed some good in there. So to me, those were the biggest winners on offense for the Raiders. Your biggest losers on defense yesterday, Stone Forsythe had a rough game. Looking at that game yesterday, I wish a beat reporter would have said, hey, last week you said you were trying to get Charles Grant more opportunities. Charles Grant had only 2 snaps yesterday. Why can't we get Charles Grant some more opportunities at left tackle if Stone Forsythe's going to play an absolute shitty football game? Another loser yesterday, it's got to be Geno Smith. He played well for a majority of the game, but the pick 6 was really bad, and you can't tell me that Geno don't care about his stats. Geno would rather run out of bounds and lose 9 yards instead of throwing the ball out of bounds because that's going to hurt his QBR and completion percentage. Geno Smith's been taking sacks all season. Only gave up 3 sacks yesterday, but running out of bounds, losing 9 yards just shows, again, Geno's got certain things that he cares about, and I don't think he cares about winning football games. Another player that I'm going to add here – nah, I'm not going to do that. I mean, that's kind of up and down. All right, let me go to defense here for my winners and losers. I'll say this. The guy who probably impressed me the most yesterday was Malcolm Kuntz. Malcolm had a few really good reps that looked like the Malcolm Kuntz that we were accustomed to seeing. Jamal Adams, I thought, played pretty damn well, flying all over the football field. Max, the effort play that he had on Nick Chubb was good. Isaiah Paul-Amal, I thought, played pretty well yesterday. Tommy Eichenberg deserves more reps at linebacker. In terms of the biggest losers, Porter, unfortunately, has probably got to be on that list just because he had, he just gave up a lot yesterday, though. I kind of agree. It was a little ticky-tack calls, but it is what it is. I'm going to give another loser, probably the biggest loser yesterday. I had 2 big losers. I'll go Adam Butler. I got Adam Butler down, but I'd say the biggest loser yesterday on defense for the Raiders was Lonnie Johnson Jr. He had a rough day. He got picked apart over pursuit. But again, you're asking Lonnie Johnson Jr., who's not a free safety, to play free safety. It's tough, man. It's tough. I did just see Evil Hawk, Foster Moreau. Did he play good, Mitch? Michael Mayer did not play a great game yesterday. He was okay. I still want to be able to build around him, but I know I keep saying Michael Mayer or Foster Moreau when I say Michael Mayer. You guys are. It's going to keep happening. All right, well, let me see. They're going to whip the Giants in Kansas City and mess up a franchise quarterback. Chuck, TJ sent you one. Come here. What's funny is, it's still like I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case. Say thank you, Uncle TJ. Thank you. He was the MVP yesterday. I know, pretty sick. Am I more nervous that the Raiders are going to win now against the Giants? Yes. Am I more nervous that the Raiders are going to win against Kansas City now? Yes, I am. But I also know how the NFL works, and I also know that it's a very week-to-week league. And the Raiders played well, but we also have to say that the freaking Texans, I think, played the worst game of the season yesterday. That looked like a football team that just thought that they were going to be able to show up and get a win. And again, I talked to Chuggs about it. And he flat out told me, he's like, that was one of the worst games I've seen Houston play all season long. So the NFL is always a close competitive league, and I want to really, really illustrate that. But with the Raiders running the football the way that they did, and with the Giants being as bad against the run as what they are, yeah, it does make me nervous. Like these last 2 games, Kansas City lost 26-9 to the Tennessee Titans. You know what I mean? You lose that bad to Tennessee. And they did. They got blown out. They got dominated. And when you get dominated against a bad football team, I think it just opens up the area of, again, anything is freaking possible. But I'm a lot more nervous about the Raiders because I believe, and this is going to be the video that I'll probably end up doing that you guys will see tomorrow here on the Raiders Report. It's going to be around like, where the Raiders could end up falling if they win, if they lose, a rooting guide, all that kind of fun stuff. But I believe if my early calculations are correct, I believe if the Raiders were to win their next 2 games and, the teams that are where they are, like they lose, you're probably going to be at pick 7. And being at pick 7, I don't know who our head coach would be. I don't know what the Raiders' plan would be, but you'd have to get really flippin' creative, and you're in a really bad situation if you're at pick 7. I'll tell you that right now. You're in a really, really, really bad situation if you're at pick 7. I hope that's not the case, but only time's going to tell. Only time's going to tell. All right. I don't see any super chats. I don't see any more. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you guys one final call here. If you want me to stay live, we got to get some questions going. If not, I'm going to then just kind of keep my chat sports day going here a little bit. We've got a bunch of different stuff that I got to do behind the scenes just because of the holidays. I do hope that everybody does pull up with me. My plan is to go live this Saturday for Chargers and Texans, because if the Texans win that game, they essentially lock it in, their playoff chances. Though I do think if the Colts lose tonight, I don't think the Texans are 100% chance to get it in, but I know if the Texans win, they lock in a chance, and I'd like to be able to see that with Chuggs. Also, what's really important about that game is if the Texans win, I believe then they go to the 5 seed, and I believe the Chargers will end up falling down maybe to the 6 or 7 spot. But for the Texans, if you're there, you're playing, like if you're at number 5, you're going up against Pittsburgh. And, for a lot of teams out there, hang on a sec. I think when you look at the playoff matchups, I think if you look at all the teams in the AFC, the number 1 team that you should want to play in the AFC is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you agree with that? I mean, I would. So if you're Houston, getting that 5 seed is really important. So even if the Chargers and the Texans are both locked into that playoff spot, I think getting that 5 seed is really, really important. Let's go to a super chat. What's coming in from Nick? What up, Nick? Chuck? He's literally right here. We got a little bed underneath this little workstation computer. He doesn't really ever lay there. He usually just lays between my legs. Do you think with the Raiders continuing to play likely they did yesterday, do you think that will save Pete's job? No. 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 Insert The Office, Michael yelling, no. It can't, man. You can't take one good football game and throw away months of disaster. And that's what Pete Carroll has been. Pete Carroll has been a disaster since the start of February. And if you beating a Texans team that, again, is a 10-win team, but it's one of the worst games they've played all season, if your pedigree of what is good enough to be a Raiders head coach is beating a really bad 2-13 Giants team and beating a Kansas City team that's going to be on their 3rd-string quarterback, if that's all it takes to be the Raiders head coach, then no wonder why we hired Pete Carroll. No wonder why we would keep Pete. Just there's no way you can keep Pete Carroll. And, one of the videos that I'm probably going to end up doing, wow, this is actually pretty big news for that game, Texans against on Saturday. Denzel Perriman, former Raiders linebacker, has just been suspended without pay for 2 games for a hit that he had against the Dallas Cowboys. So that means he's out the final 2 games for the Chargers. That's kind of a big loss. I'm not going to lie, because Perriman's one of their better run stoppers. Interesting. But no, dude, there's no way that Pete Carroll can save his job. There's no way that anybody should want to keep Pete around because, again, it's where the NFL is at right now. Just look at how the Raiders prepare themselves. If you want to build this team, my question to you, Nick, would be, if you think Pete Carroll's the coach next season, do you think Brennan Carroll returns? I think Brennan Carroll returns. And if you think Brennan Carroll returns, how the hell are we going to upgrade our offensive line the way that we need to upgrade our offensive line? Because if you keep Brennan Carroll, he's probably also then going to stay as the run game coordinator and the offensive line coach. It's so important this offseason to move on from Pete, because then you're also moving on from Brennan. And if you're moving on from Pete and Brennan, that means you're going to get a better head coach. You're going to get a better offensive line coach. You're going to get a better offensive coordinator. And you're going to get somebody that I actually think hopefully knows how to get this team going in the right direction. But yes, Ashton Jeanty played well yesterday. Yeah, I thought the whole game in general, they looked pretty damn good. But I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to fall for it. I'm not going to fall for a few really good, shitty games from Pete and say, let's keep him around. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. Let's go to Terry. TJ, who do you think it will be in the big game this year? So you're talking Super Bowl? All right, I like this one. From all of y'all that are watching right now, let me know down below, who do you think is going to be playing in the Super Bowl? Let's give some shout outs here to the people that are still watching. We got 485 people here in the building, and I greatly, greatly appreciate each and every one of y'all that always stay here, that always pull up. If you haven't already, make sure you click that like button. Believe it or not, it does help us out quite a bit. In terms of who do I think is going to be in the big game this year, I can't stick with my original projection, because my original projection was the Bills up against the Lions. Okay? Bills up against the Lions. That can't happen. And I think we all know that can't happen. Hopefully, I just saw I lost internet connection. Hopefully I'm still here. If I'm not still here, I'll be back in a little bit. So I'm going to stick with my Bills prediction, because I've said that the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl all year long. They're an ebb and flow team. I just feel like with no Lamar Jackson, no Patrick Mahomes, without Josh Allen happen to go up against his boogeyman, I'm going to say Bills. And then I'm just going to go with the team that I believe in the most. And a lot of times when you look at playoff games, it comes down to coaching. It comes down to good quarterback play. For that reason, I'm going to go with the Rams. So I'm going to go Bills up against the Rams in the Super Bowl. And I think that the Bills are going to be able to get a win. That's what we're going to go with. We'll see. We shall see. All right, let's go to another one coming in here, which I might have to exit out of some of these tabs. I don't know what's going on. All right, here we go. Let's go to Sir Chai. Jackson Dart and Gardner Minshew will not ruin our number one plans. You're right, because Gardner Minshew will not play Week 18 against the Raiders. I actually don't know who the quarterback's going to be. But because Gardner Minshew tore his ACL, they're going to be going on their third quarterback. Now, maybe they try to add somebody. I don't think they're going to try to add anyone. But I'm really nervous about the Kansas City game. I'm not going to lie to you. The only good part about the Jackson Dart New York Giants conversation is there's some rumors right now that the Giants, if they have the number one overall pick, could take a quarterback. And if you're Jackson Dart, you're going to try to do everything in your power to make sure that happens. Now, I talked to Marshall, our host of our Giants show, and he's kind of made it pretty clear to me that he doesn't believe that the Giants would move on from a quarterback. But Dart didn't really play well yesterday. He's also, he doesn't have Malik. He doesn't have Cam. He doesn't have a lot of his big-time playmakers that he had due to injuries. But I do think that the Giants players have more to play for than the Chiefs players. And if the players have more to play for, that is when you see a little bit more of inspired football. But the Giants game scares the hell out of me, dude. I'm not going to lie. Let's go to Nick. I do want to clarify. I don't want Pete. I think we need to move on and rebuild. Okay, cool. We do need to rebuild, and we do need to move on. It's literally the reason why I titled my Overreaction Monday video today, Don't Be Stupid, because I late last night, I'm not going to lie to you. When I got home last night, I was not well. I laid down. I was, Twitter surfing, Instagram surfing, texting people, just typically what I do after a game. And I was tired. I did not feel well yesterday. It took everything out of me to go live for the amount of time that we did. But the number one thing that I felt like I kept seeing this morning and late last night was, well, the Raiders haven't quit on Pete Carroll. The Raiders have been playing better over the past few weeks. And I thought to myself, we just got blown out 31-0 against the Philadelphia Eagles. Are we just going to say, because they're Super Bowl champs, we're just going to give that a pass? No. Yes, we did play well against the Houston Texans, but the amount of people that I saw today and yesterday are maybe we should give Pete a chance. Don't be stupid. So I'm glad You do want to move on. I wasn't saying that. A lot of times, like when I direct a question at somebody, it's not necessarily I'm directing it at you. I'm just like directing it to to the entire audience of, if you really want Pete Carroll back, then blah, 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 blah. So I appreciate you clarifying it, because I don't think it makes any sense to want to keep him, quite frankly. All right, let's go to Chris. What's up, Chris? If Pete loses out, should he stay? No. Though I would tell Pete Carroll, if you lose out, you can keep your job. Obviously, that's not true, but why would anybody want to keep Pete Carroll? You can't, there's not a single person here that can give me an argument, and I mean this when I say it. I would give anybody $100 on Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365 if you could provide me with one reason why you should keep Pete Carroll. And go ahead, somebody try to do it. It's impossible to do it, but go ahead and try to do it. You can't do it. There's no way anybody out there can do it. So I think when you really sit back and you go, man, if I can't think of one thing that I think Pete's done this year, how the hell do you want to bring that coach back when you have the offseason that you do, and it is such a big offseason? I mean, you can't piss away the draft. You can't piss away free agency. It's so important that you hit this offseason out of the park. And when you think about all the things that Pete Carroll and this regime had this past offseason, teams would kill to be top 3 in salary cap space. Teams would kill to have 11 overall, or what they have, 11, 12 draft picks. I think it was 12. I already kind of forget. I think they ended up finishing with 10, but, you had 12 draft picks. And for you to be as bad as what you are, and for you to be as badly coached as what you are, again, man, we can't keep Pete Carroll. You know it. I know it. I think everyone knows it. TJ, Geno wants out. So my fear is he's going to ball out, mess up our game plan for 2026 draft, just to hope to be wanted somewhere else. I mean, Geno Smith should try to play really good football here over the past 2 games. He should, because he knows he's not going to be on this Raiders team next season. Now, no matter what, Geno's going to get $18.5 million. No matter what. If Geno's on the Raiders next year, or if he's not on the Raiders next season, he gets paid $18.5. So what Geno Smith is going to end up doing is he's going to be out the door, whether the Raiders cut him. Now, I know I saw a report from Vincent Bonsignor that's like the Raiders are going to try to trade Geno before they cut him. They are going to try to trade him. Nobody's going to trade for Geno Smith. Nobody's going to take on $26 million. Nobody's going to take on that contract. And because that's going to be the case, if I'm Geno Smith, I'm sitting there going, well, if I'm basically scheduled to make $26 million cap with the Raiders, right? It's basically what he's scheduled to make. All I got to do is get cut by the Raiders, make 18.5, and then I just got to sign with another team for $8-9 million. If Geno Smith hits the open market next offseason, he is guaranteed he's going to make $8 to $9 million on a new football team. There's going to be somebody that comes in there and they go, oh, Geno was bad. Well, maybe he was just bad because Pete Carroll was a disaster. Maybe he was just bad because it's the Las Vegas Raiders. He's going to get another opportunity else, and he's going to try to ball out. No doubt about it. But here's the thing. So would Aiden O'Connell. So would Kenny Pickett. So would any quarterback of the Raiders, because people are always trying to earn their next paycheck. They're always trying to do their job and earn their next job. But to me, I want Geno Smith to keep on playing, because Geno makes the big turnover. He makes the big mistake. He seemingly does it every single week. And if the Raiders are going to lose the turnover battle, there's no way they're going to win a football game. I don't see in the world of possibilities, if the Raiders end up losing that turnover battle, they're just not going to win a football game. So I want Geno to keep starting, because the tape's out on Geno. They're going to get more and more tape out on him. And I think what a good football team is going to do, and I don't know if the Giants are going to do it, I don't know if the Chiefs are going to do it, but now there's at least more tape out on, I think, what this Raiders offense potentially looks like against the Texans, because you can't gain anything from the Philadelphia game, right? You can't gain anything from it. So now the fact that we're going on our third game, our third sample size of Greg Olsen, you're going to be able to scheme. You're going to be able to plan just a little bit more. And I also think that that's one of the reasons why the Houston Texans defense did struggle yesterday, because all they really got to look at was the, week 14 game? the Week 14 game against the Broncos when Geno played in that game, and that was the first Greg Olsen game. So, then the Philly game, you can't use that one because that was Kenny Pickett at quarterback. So it was Geno Smith with Greg Olsen, kind of like a new look overall offense. They clearly had a new game plan of trying to establish that running game with Jeanty, which they did. But, the Giants and the Chiefs are going to have more time to game plan, which should make you feel a little bit better. But I'm nervous, dude. I'm not going to lie to you. I am very, very, very nervous about the Raiders ruining their chances of winning that number 1 overall pick. What up, Ryan? Panthers versus Texans for Super Bowl 24-18 Texans. Now, the Chuggs would be happy. I think that would be one of the most boring Super Bowls of all time, though. Carolina's a good story. I'm happy that Carolina is in this playoff take right now. I see Black Sheep. Terrible take, Mitch. Geno is going to beat the Giants and the Chiefs. Unfortunately, Geno is the best quarterback on our roster. I don't fully disagree with that. I guess my other statement, though, is like when you don't have tape on a guy, you can the team shows up. It's harder for the defense to scheme when you don't have as much tape. So that is what it is. That's a crazy take, though, Ryan. That's a crazy one. Let's go to Rebel. Chiefs will find way to mess with us. Hard to tank. The Chiefs, see, to me, the only reason why I'm looking at the glass half full for the whole Kansas City Chiefs game, Week 18, is I do believe that is the final game of Travis Kelce. The final game of Travis Kelce's career, who I would say after this season, he's going to retire. He's going to ride out into the sunset with Taylor, and he's going to, enjoy life after football, which I don't blame him. If my wife was a billionaire, I'll be real with you. I love doing the Raiders Report, but if my wife was a billionaire, I don't think I'd be doing this show as often, right? Like as much as I hate to admit that, but I think all of you would probably say the exact same thing. I just think the Chiefs are going to want to win that last game for Travis. I think they're going to want to try to win that game, for themselves, because a lot of the times for guys that get paid, football is what have you done for me lately? And if they go out there and they play well that final game, I think that's going to leave a good taste in some of the free agents' mouths, giggity, and, they're going to have a chance to go sign elsewhere. Let's go to Will. Thoughts on Dante Moore? I like Dante Moore a lot. Let me see if I can pull up my notes on him here real quick. I've done a few videos on Dante Moore. Let me see what I got here. So my quick notes that I had on Dante Moore is he's my number 2 quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. I just think that Fernando Mendoza fits our Raiders offense a little bit better. Pure passer. Love how quickly he processes. That quick release is something that I know Tom Brady's going to freaking love. His athletic ability is good enough. He's not somebody that's going to wow you with athletic ability. He kind of reminds me of like a Brock Purdy of he can run when needs to run, can run when he needs to pick up a first down, but you really want him to kind of sit there in a pocket. Mentally tough quarterback, never really fazed by the moment, and he's somebody that has shown improvement week after week, year after year, and that's really important to me. I want Oregon to win it all because I feel like if Oregon wins it all, Dante Moore declares for the NFL draft. If Oregon wins the Natty, Dante Moore is obviously going to be a big reason for that. And I think if he ends up winning the Natty, there's going to be a lot of NFL teams that go, well, wait a minute here. Maybe we should draft Dante Moore number 1 overall. And if you have a chance to go number 1 overall, I think you're crazy to not enter the draft. I think you're crazy to not want to enter the draft. Let's go to June. What's up, June? I will say this. As soon as I get through all these super chats here, I will be logging off. You guys will get another video. Not today. You guys will get a video from me bright and early tomorrow, but I gotta take some medicine here. Content idea. All right, I like this. Is it within the realm of possibility to watch film? You're going to hate what I'm going to say here, but the answer to that is no. The reason why the answer to this is no is I don't know if you guys have seen it happens all the time, but because the NFL is so strict on their film, I don't want to lose my YouTube channel. And you're not the first person to ask me about showing film. The problem is, in all honesty, the only way I would even consider showing film is if we went like subscription based and people paid for me to break down film via subscription. And even that would be risky to me because there's a lot of people that show film on their YouTube channel. But technically, at any moment, if the NFL wanted to, they could throw strikes at those YouTube channels, and then their YouTube channels would be gone forever. I've just worked way too hard in my career to potentially lose my YouTube channel. It's how I put a roof over my head. It's how I put food on a table. So believe me, man, like I would love to be able to sit back and do it. One reason, because I would like to be able to learn how to dissect film better, because to me, I always say it, like I'm not an X's and O's guy. I feel like I watch the game. I feel like I understand the game. I feel like I understand the Raiders and like what's good for them, what's bad for them. But the number one reason why I would never do film is because, and yeah, you've probably seen some people on social media get upset about YouTube sending them strikes or about, YouTube taking videos down and whatnot. But to me, there's a chance that any person that shows film on their YouTube channel, in snap of a finger, their YouTube channel could be banned. And that's just sometimes the way that the NFL works. It's just sometimes the way that YouTube works. But unfortunately, no, I won't show film, and it's not worth the risk for me. And it sucks if YouTube would ever come out and say, hey, like if the NFL would ever come out and say, hey, you guys can show the all 22 film. You guys can show certain clips here and there. And knowingly, like there would be no repercussions, because, you could be sitting here doing a video today, 3 years down the road, the NFL could go, well, wait a minute, you used our video. That's a strike. And if you've done it more than 3 times, strike, your YouTube channel's gone. So I will never do it. And it's only because I can't show the film. So like if you guys would be okay with me being like, here's what I learned from the film, and not show you any of the film, I could do it. But in terms of actually putting film up here, it's not worth the risk to me. And I hope that you guys understand that, because not only is the Raiders Report really important to me, but, I don't keep any of the super chats. I don't keep any of the Venmos. The Raiders Report pays like multiple guys' salaries here at Chat Sports. And if I were to lose my channel, in all honesty, man, like a lot of people would lose their jobs. So I just can't do it. It's not worth the risk. What up, TJ? All in all, this is going to be a very interesting playoff season. This Josh Allen's chance to pull it off. I agree with you. Like, I think that Josh has to get it done this year. And if he doesn't get it done this year, there's going to be a lot of people being like, well, what's next for the Bills? Like, I was talking to one of my buddies of who's a head coach that would surprise people if he got fired. I said Sean McDermott. And not saying that Sean McDermott isn't a good head coach. We all know that he's a good head coach. But honestly, though, when you look at that Bills roster, it's not a very good Bills roster. It's Josh Allen carrying a team. And I don't think that Allen's going to win MVP, but if we're really talking about the true definition of an MVP, it kind of reminds me of like a few years ago with like LeBron James, where literally like there could have been a 10-year stretch where every single year LeBron James could have won the MVP. Can't tell me otherwise. He was the best player in the NBA, could have won it probably 10 straight years. Josh Allen, the way that he's playing right now, is like he's clearly the MVP of football. There's not a single player more important to their team than Josh Allen. And I think Matthew Stafford probably ends up winning the MVP award, but he's got to get it done. And if they don't win it this year, I do wonder. I'm not saying the Bills are going to fire McDermott, but there are going to be some people going, well, wait a minute. How the hell are we not winning? And we got this guy named Josh Allen. I'm rooting for the Bills, though. I really am. I'm rooting for the Bills. I'm rooting for the Texans. And to me, it's really just as long as the Broncos, as long as the Chargers, and as long as the 49ers don't win it. And the Eagles. I don't really want to see the Eagles win it again. So as long as those 4 teams don't win it, I'm going to be happy. If I got to deal with an AFC West against 49ers freaking Super Bowl, don't want to have to deal with it. Let's go to AO. We can't fall for this game. We deserve better. You're right, AO. And I love your profile pic. You can't fall to recency bias. And recency bias is we played well against the Houston Texans. We played well against a team that's got 10 wins. Well, the Texans also looked awful yesterday. They did. And Pete Carroll, the Raiders, they showed up and they played. But if we're sitting here going, well, the Raiders showed up and they played. I mean, what the hell are we talking about here? We're going to clap for guys making millions of dollars that showed up to do their job? Get the hell out of here, man. I get the Raiders aren't quitting. They shouldn't quit. I don't care what anybody, even if you are trying to tank, you literally should never quit if you are a player. You shouldn't quit. So, I look at that game yesterday and I'm like, the Raiders played their A+ game. The Texans played their D game, and people want to keep Pete Carroll? Get out of here. TJ, Minshew is out like Mahomes. We are going against the third stringer. We are going up against the third string. It's going to come down to turnovers. And I really think that these next two games, if the Raiders don't win the turnover battle, I just don't see them winning a football game. Yes, they did play a lot better yesterday, but I also think that teams are going to see what they did against Houston. And the Raiders into all year, when you've given a team tape and you've given a team to be able to scheme for what you do, the Raiders that following week have always been the worst team. And I do think, and it shouldn't shock anybody, the New York Giants are going to study what the Raiders did against Houston. And if I'm the New York Giants, I'm trying to take away, I'm trying to make Geno Smith throw the football. I'm not going to let Jeanty run the ball on me. But also, the Giants, yes, they have a lot of injuries. Yes, they've been bad against the run this season. I do think if the Giants try to stack the interior of that defensive line and let some of those players be athletes, yeah, man, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Jersey boy, worst case scenario, would you take Malik Willis, Mac Jones, Davis Mills, Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, or Tua? Well, I would not take Tua, and the biggest reason why you can't take Tua is, again, you're already paying Geno Smith $18.5. If you were to trade for Tua, I believe the amount that you take on between Tua and Geno is like $88.5 million. Just way too much money to invest in two quarterbacks that, again, I don't really see as being the future of your team. And that's a lot of money that you can't spend elsewhere. So Tua's out the window. Kirk Cousins is going to be a free agent, but I'm not interested in Kirk. Kyler Murray, he's just not a good leader, and you hear it all the time. So I'm not really interested in Kyler. To me, if I got to look at the options that you have presented to me, I would say Malik Willis, Mac Jones, or Davis Mills. But to me, the number one guy that I would try to go out and get is Jalen Milroe. And I only say that because he's still on a rookie contract. Mac Jones is going to get a new payday. Malik Willis is going to get a new payday. Davis Mills, you'd have to trade for, I believe. Or is he a free agent this offseason? Let me see. Oh, yeah, he's on the Texans roster next year. So you'd have to trade for Davis Mills, which I don't think is the worst idea. But the other thing is the Texans aren't going to do that. The Texans are going to want to keep Davis Mills on that rookie contract. So, you'd probably have to give up a third-round pick for Davis Mills. I don't want to do that. So, to me, I'd give up a fifth-round pick for Jalen Milroe and then let him run that offense with Jeanty, and you just really try to run the football over and over again. And the other reason why I don't think it's that crazy of an idea is because a lot of the people that you hired this offseason were really, heavy factors in that Philadelphia Eagles front office, a front office that, really turned Jalen Hurts and that Eagles team into something special. And when you can build around a rookie contract like a Jalen Milroe, that helps you build that offensive line, helps you build everywhere else. But if I had to pick between what you presented to me, Malik Willis and Mac Jones would be probably my two most intriguing options. I'm not saying that they're the best quarterbacks on here, but they give us the best chance to put the most talent around our teams, in my opinion. But neither one's good. Neither one's good. Injury coming in here. Kamani Vidal, who left the game against the Cowboys, he's got a neck strain. He's considered day-to-day. All right, y'all. I am looking. I don't see any more super chats on the program. I'm getting asked right now if I can join a call. All right, so actually, I got to get going. My boss just messaged me, and he needs me to hop on a call here at 2. So I got to get out of here. But I hope that you guys appreciated the content that I made today. It was a little bit different from what we typically do. I don't always, go live, and I don't always get to show the presser the way that I did. But in order to be able to do more of these shows, hope that you guys hit that like button. Hope that you guys subscribe. Hope that you're always tuning in to the content that we're providing here. Rebel, can y'all join the call? Unfortunately not. I am a part of the hiring team here at Chat Sports. So we're looking to hire a bunch of new people for the off season. And that's kind of what I got to do today. So Appreciate each and every one of y'all. Again, anybody that participates in the show, it means a lot to me. Shout out to all y'all that always pull up and tune in. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure you click that subscribe button. And I will be live tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific here on the Raiders Report. I will not be live on Thursday. It's Christmas. The next time then you will see me Tuesday, and then I will be live on Saturday for Chargers and Texans, and then I will be live again for Raiders and Giants. So much love to all y'all. Peace out, and everybody wishing me the good wishes for getting back to 100% health. I really, 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 really appreciate it. Go Raiders.